Hi there, and welcome to the ATS podcast with me, Will Brown, and John Soulsby, where we break down chunks of health and fitness information into bite-sized pieces, remove a bunch of the noise, and just leave what's relevant. Today, we are talking about HIIT training, which stands for High Intensity Interval Training, if people were not aware. Um, HIIT training's been about for donkey's years. It's been around
Yeah,
since like the 70s or something. Like
yeah.
it's
Since whenever CrossFit invented it,
yeah, or whatever it was before
I
that. Cave fit. Uh,
think K-Fit was. I think K-Fit's generally. Oh no, here we are. This is it. We're already on a tangent. Is that not just the Edinburgh Gym rather than an actual
no, I
like
thought that was the training
thing?
modality where everyone was using fucking clubs and shit.
No,
No,
I mean if you literally just Google K-Fit, it's the gym in Edinburgh.
but if you Google cave fit training, oh, it's also the gym in Edinburgh. Um,
But who knows?
yeah, maybe it's just the idea as a meme, like,
Hmm.
uh, and now they're just a CrossFit gym anyway. The the idea behind high intensity infill training is you do periods, very short periods of maximal effort, interspersed with periods of medium effort in order to recover. My main gripe with this is it has been flogged to death in uh, fitness businesses and gyms everywhere as a kind of shortcut to doing actual cardio. Like you'll likely see potentially infomercials if you still watch a TV, or people citing that do this much in 20 minutes. Like in the same 20 minutes, you could do the same work you would do in an hour. No, you can't. Time doesn't work like that. Like this isn't
Yeah,
the hyperbaric chamber in Dragon Ball Z. Like it doesn't work like that. You just are more tired quicker because you do some harder work. Like that doesn't equal any more calories burned or any greater gain in cardiovascular adaptation. Like that is not how that works.
yeah,
Like it is just a modality for training energy systems that has been rinse repeated and ruined by people who are just marketing shills.
yeah,
The yeah, so classically, especially used in weightlifting, it's used a lot by people who lift mainly cause you can do it with lifting implements. So if you're like, I don't want to run, I don't run from nothing, but you do need to do cardio.
yeah.
You can do any kind of loaded movements. You'll see these a lot with kettlebells, dumbbells. You can do it with barbells if you want, like kettlebell clean and jerks, various other things. Like any kind of traditional lifting exercise, you could probably do some with, where you essentially just have a weight that is relatively challenging, and you just hoof it about for 30 seconds straight, and then take 15 seconds either total rest or doing a calisthenic that is much less loaded relatively for you, or some other kind of exercise. I personally, you can do them between cardio equipment and loaded exercises is quite a good way, which I don't see many people doing.
Hmm.
Like doing, I mean, this will come up in CrossFit, but like doing uh like kettlebell or dumbbell thrusters, like a squat to an overhead press, and then doing like 50% effort cardio method, like bike, row, whatever you want, for your 15 seconds is a pretty great way to do that thing. I think
Yeah,
the other one is that you have to typically build up, usually about 15 to 25 minutes of intervals.
yeah. I can't find the paper now, but we've talked before. I think a little bit about minimum effective dose of
Hmm.
like lifting weights, as in how little do you need to do to get gains
Yeah.
from a purely weightlifting point of view. And I saw that it's kind of accepted that like around 20 minutes is that sort of benchmark for any form of cardiovascular
Mm.
like so yeah 50 I think 15 to 20 minutes is kind of like Not that I never think anything's wasted, but I mean, if you're doing 10 minutes, it's not that much harder to do 15 minutes.
Yeah,
I know that it's 50% more, but an extra 5 minutes is not a big deal.
yeah. I think my other one is that the just on that point of like nothing really being wasted, but I think the when these are touted or like partaken in by kind of general population people without a kind of base of training at all, like they have no
Mm-hmm.
like you are a sedentary person who's like I'm getting in the gym. Throw back to the New Year's resolution podcast that's before this one.
Yeah,
They're like we're getting into the gym. It, don't go through any kind of HIIT classes really. Like genuinely, just don't, because you're not gonna have a good time. Uh, is
it's gonna be
really
horrible.
is going to be really gross for you. You're not going to enjoy it or the resounding soreness afterwards because you don't have a base level of fitness to go you can't go high intensity. Like any lifting is high intensity for you because you haven't done any. Like it is not an appropriately scaled introduction to exercise.
Yeah,
It will be disproportionately uncomfortable and sore for you to do. Um, Especially in a class environment.
yeah,
Uh,
and I think like even if you're just coming, if you're adding it in from just doing weights, is
mhm,
probably goes the same um, to a certain extent. Like as in, we had a client that joined our last Saturday class, and it was pretty disgusting for him because it was just his your first one there. So maybe pick an easier one
mhm.
or like a general cardio one before you jump into HIIT. They are disgusting.
The yeah, the other one is that when you don't uh, hit very high intensity, like the kind of definitions for a high intensity is a bit vague in terms of like what is high intensity. Like how do you know you are going? How do you know you are intense enough, bro?
Yeah,
Um, and I'm pretty sure it is maximal effort. So it is essentially trying to like redline your heart rate at all points. So like realistically, like because below that you have sprint interval training, which is where pretty much everyone ends up, which is where you are on near maximal training, which would be somewhere like 80% plus max heart
yeah,
rate, versus high intensity, which is I believe Garrett like defined as maximal, i.e. you're attempting to close to max out your heart rate for the however many seconds you're doing the exercise for. Which, if you are previously untrained, you pretty much can't do. Like,
yeah. It's
you,
very,
you
very difficult.
you don't have the ability to max out your heart rate. Like, you can't do it. Like, all the other systems are so inefficient, they just can't get you there. The only way that you max out your heart rate is if something is going very wrong. Like, if
Yeah,
you have tachycardia, that's how you max out your heart rate. Even then, that's probably not even maxed out.
yeah. I think the likelihood of something else giving up before you reach 180 plus.
Like the things to provide some kind of useful alternative though, because we've kind of bashed on HIIT. HIIT is perfectly fine. I just have a bugbear about people like it being marketed as just like an every kind of class, and the fact that you're like it's so intense, bro, like making you think it's better. It's not better. It's literally just. I mean, if anything, it's more likely to. Is it more likely to hurt you? Yes, because your ability to do the class at the prescribed or likely coached intensity by whatever fitness professional is taking the class, relative to your ability to do it, is so disproportionate that there is a higher likelihood of injury rate. Like your capacity to do things is much lower than the demand they will put on you in those classes, because class environments are likely never scaled properly for people who of all different abilities. You'll have people in there who've been going all of last year who are fit as fuck, and the class instructor will also just encourage people again, they're like not deliberately trying to make it worse for people. They're trying to get people to have a good time, but like the environment just doesn't work. Like you'll be there absolutely dying your dying on your feet, and they'll just be like, "Yeah, no, come on, more, 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 let's work," and you'll be like, "Mate, just fuck off, like leave me alone." But if you continually try and push through, like if they're running a 30-minute hit class, like if you're sedentary, 30 minutes of solid cardio is way
It's
too much.
bogging.
That's
Yeah.
so much. Do like an alternative, and we'll provide one. Here you go. Um, super easy aerobic stuff to start with is something from, oh, what is his name? Oh, Kirk Francis or something? It was Ben Johnson, the rather controversial American sprinter, controversial
Hmm.
for being on the old Soviet sport supplements.
Yeah.
Um, has an aerobic training modality that is quite frequently referred to as tempo runs, which is, or it can be anything, but like tempo work, which is a very low, like middling intensity aerobic training effort, which is you essentially have 30 seconds on of doing whatever you want, off feet, on feet. You can do jogging, backpedaling, high knees. This is again where anything that is comfortable for you to do. Swimming if your joints hurt. So you can do like even if you don't want to swim, high knees, like just kind of like knee ups, like you're trying to like bounce a ball on each knee one at a time in like waist deep pool water, just standing in place. So hard.
Yeah.
Like but you're going about 70% effort. So enough so that you know you're working out. Like you probably can't talk at the same time. Like that's enough. Uh, you do 30 seconds on. You give yourself about 15 seconds to get out of the pool in this situation, and then you just do 30 seconds of a very like comfortable calisthenic. You can do if push-ups are easy, do push-ups. If you're not that fit, jumping jacks, some squats like bodyweight squats, something that isn't difficult for 30 seconds, and then you just repeat those rounds for roughly 20 minutes. And the key thing throughout is to keep it chill. Like you keep it 70% effort. If you're like, this is really starting to burn, this is really getting out of hand, chill how many high knees you're doing per second, per minute, or whatever. Like no, per second because we're doing 30 seconds. Like
Yeah.
just chill the pace to the point where you can keep the same kind of difficulty right the way through all of those rounds. And then week to week, you can just add rounds. Easy peasy. We quite frequently do them with on our cardio classes where you have a set distance, you run the set distance, you do some calisthenics, you walk half the distance. And after the walk, you go again. Like as a
Yep.
much more scalable and beginner appropriate cardiovascular exercise paradigm versus like fucking the borderline lactic acid bath you're gonna get from attempting a HIIT class straight off the back with no prior training. That's gonna be miserable. And
Yeah.
the distance and time on those aerobic things are completely variable. You can vary them to whatever you want to do. Like if you're listening to this and you're someone who's like, but I do cardio already, cool. Like have a distance. The point is like it's like baking. Like there's just a ratio. It doesn't matter of the
Hmm.
quantities. It's like the American baking when you're like, oh, just 2 cups, and you're like, but what the fuck is a cup? How big a
It
cup?
doesn't
A Sports
doesn't matter.
Direct mug? It's like it doesn't matter. You just use the same cup.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, if you're like really hench, like you cycle all over the fucking shop. Your cycling cardio would be nuts. But if you wanted
Hmm.
to take like like you do it for any kind of distance, but the whole point is you do a distance and then however long that takes you, you take some time to transition into calisthenics, and then you do the same time in calisthenics.
I would die.
But then
That would be
but
gross.
like you just pick something that's easy though. Like you could
Yeah.
probably do like if you're doing like I don't know a minute, you can probably do a minute of just static jumping jacks. Like
Yeah.
that ain't that hard. Or like you can do it with like,
Or squats or
but you don't want super interfering stuff. You don't want to like interfere with your
leverage.
ability to do the cardio. But like yeah, so like mixing up like bird dogs, dead
Yeah.
bugs, like bunch of like sit ups, shit like that, and then you get back on the bike and then do another round, and that's it. Like super easy, super chill. Just maintaining the effort right the way through. And it also means that you're not just because classic aerobic cardio is just like low and slow, like barbecue, just
Hmm.
like sitting away, just uncomfortable enough to not be having a good time, and then you know you're there for like 30 minutes. You
Yeah.
start like listening to podcasts or watching shows on the TVs in the gym or whatever. Like this just breaks it up. It's also a good place to fit in any of the other exercises that you hate doing because it seems so boring to do by themselves, like bird dogs. It's a good place for like neck work for contact athletes. Like all that kind of stuff fits in there. You can just chuck it in there. Like all the stuff that you're like, shit, we need to get this done, but it's really boring. Where can we put it?
Yeah.
It's a good place to chuck it. But yeah, good alternative. HIIT training is fine, but just not for beginners. Hate it.
Totally agree.
It's minging. It's very poorly scaled and very poorly coached. We shall see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Right.